Let's talk Tanya for the 5th of Tishrei of a leap year. In yesterday's Tanya, we explained how the infinite light of God unites with Malchus, the lowest of the attributes, in order to create worlds. And we explained with this the concept of Noach Tchilasan B'Soifan, the beginning is wedged in the end, the very special connection between the highest level, the infinite light of God, and the lowest level within godliness, which is Malchus, royalty. With this, we'll be able to resolve a seeming contradiction in Kabbalah. In some places in Kabbalah, when it talks about Torah and mitzvos, it explains that mitzvos are rooted in the hey, the last hey of Hashem's name, which is the last letter, the lowest letter, which, by the way, corresponds to Malchus. And Torah is rooted in the vav of Hashem's name, which is above that. In other places in Kabbalah, on the other hand, when we're talking about the higher source of Torah, as Torah is sourced in Keser, in the infinite light of God, over there we say that Torah is rooted in what's called the moichas tima, which literally translates as the hidden brain or the hidden wisdom of God. And mitzvahs are sourced in the gulgalta, which is the skull. Now, obviously, this is all anthropomorphic and this is not literal, but these are metaphors. And just like when you have the brain and you have the skull surrounds, encompasses, and is above the brain. The same thing is also the source of mitzvahs, which is Golgotha, the skull, is above the source of Torah. So here's what's interesting is, the question is, which one is higher, Torah and mitzvahs? In the world of Atzilus, that's where you have the Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's name, over there Torah is higher. Torah is the Vav and mitzvahs are the Hey. And if you go higher into Keser, so over there it's the opposite, mitzvahs are higher. So the Rebbe says the whole process of the emerging of everything from its source in the infinite light of God, in the words of the Alter Rebbe, is kechoisam hameshapech, which means like the inverted seal. What does that mean? In the olden times, when a king or some sort of dignitary wanted to seal a letter, so how would they do it? They would pour wax on, they would seal it, close it, pour wax in it, and then with their ring, which had a seal in it, they would seal it, and if the seal was intact, wasn't broken, you know that the letter wasn't opened. Now, what's interesting about the seal is that whatever you have on the seal, what's going to be in the wax is going to be the exact opposite of what's on the seal. Meaning, if the words or the symbol on the seal protrudes, then in the wax, it's going to be an indented seal. On the other hand, if in the seal, the words or the image is indented, then on the wax, it's going to protrude. What's right is left and what's left is right. In other words, what's right on the signet ring is going to be left in the wax and vice versa. Everything is the exact opposite. And that's the way it works with creation. The way it is above, in its source and infinite light of God, afterwards, when it enters the system of creation, or even in the world of Atzilus, everything becomes the opposite. That which is higher in the source ends up being lower down here. So, in the source, mitzvahs are higher than Torah, but once it comes down over here, Torah is higher than mitzvahs, and that is because Noach Tchilasan B'Soifan, the beginning, the highest level, is always wedged in the lowest level. So we have over here is that both mitzvahs, which is what we talked about today, and creation, which is what we've been talking about the last few days, are both sourced in Malchus, in God's royalty. And the connection between the two of them is that what is a mitzvah? A command is something which is given from one person to another, or from a king to a subject. So in order for God to be able to give mitzvahs, which is what God wanted to have creations who will observe his commandments, there had to be bria yesh mi'ayin. There had to be the creation of something from nothing in order to create entities, us, who are other than God, who can then fulfill the mitzvah. So both of these concepts are related. Both of them are sourced in Malchus, the idea of mitzvahs, as well as creation of something from nothing. With this, we've established how within the realm of godliness, there is something very special and something very powerful, specifically about the lowest level, which is Malchus. As we explained, creation is something from nothing, it's from Malchus. Mitzvahs are from Malchus. But as we discussed in the very beginning of this chapter, we're going to take this further. In tomorrow's Tanya, we're going to start on the journey and talk about within the system of creation, not within godliness. Once we enter the system of creation, which the system of creation starts from the world of Bria, how there too also there is something special in the lowest level within the system of creation.